C. Williams here. It's been a while since I did a walk and talk, right? So I figured after the last couple of days of violence, um, we should definitely have a conversation about a couple of things. Because the crime is really out of control. And I know at this point it seems just about normal. But we really need some action taken on this stuff. But what we see, unfortunately, more and more is crime happens, people get on the internet, they complain, nothing changes. Crime happens, more people get on the internet, more people complain, nothing happens. Elections come, people go to get ready to vote, nobody really turns out to vote, and nothing changes. Officials get elected, and again, nothing changes. So now the question is, if this keeps happening, how are we going to change anything, right? So the concept of change is something that I think is lost on a lot of people right now because it's not really so much the change that we need, it's the action that we need, right? You get online, you see a whole bunch of people with thoughts and prayers, and oh, that's so sad. Oh, I'm praying for the family. We don't need thoughts. We don't need prayers. We need action by our elected officials, specifically the state assembly and the state senate. Okay. They're the ones who are in control of making laws and changing laws. They can change the raise the age laws, but they refuse. They can change the bail reform laws, but they refuse. Last night, over here on over here off of Clifton. Good morning. Over here off of Clifton, they ended up shooting somebody, and it bullet went through the house also, and into somebody's TV where there were three little kids. So the person that got shot died. They think that that was the intended target. So that's one thing. But the other thing is now these bullets continue to go into people's houses and nobody's seeking to really do anything about the crime. And that's a very serious issue. We've got all of these posturing things done by different people in the government. Oh, it's the guns. Oh, it's the guns. It's not the guns. Because we saw last night, right? We had multiple stabbings. You know, North Clinton, not to be outdone by the Southwest, they had about five different people shot in three different instances that we know about, and like two people stabbed over there last night. It's crazy. And the crime continues. And we have to ask ourselves as a community, as a city, how much of this crime are we willing to take? Right? Like, because the crime is impacting us. It's impacting us. It's not really impacting the elected officials. They don't really care. So the question is, what can be done to hold these elected officials accountable, right? So if you know who, do you know who your state assembly person is? Do you know who your state senator is? We've got two state senators for this area. If you're on the west side of the river, it's Jeremy Cooney. If you're on the east side, it's Samara Burke. Then we've got about three different assembly people, depending on where you are. You got to check out that online. But we've got Demond Meeks, we've got Harry Bronson, we've got Sarah Clark, and those are the three that immediately run through the city. Now, all of these people are in favor of bail reform and the raise the age laws. They refuse to amend these laws, even though we see that what is happening is this crime starts getting bolder and bolder. People are snatching people out of cars. They're beating up old ladies. They do not care because they know that there aren't enough police and that even if they are caught, that they will be able to get right back out of jail, especially the younger people, because of raise the age laws and bail reform. This is something that impacts all of us that live in the city of Rochester, but they refuse to address it. So it's going to be up to us to hold them accountable. All of these people, Demond Meeks, Jeremy Cooney, Sarah Clark, Samara Burke, Harry Bronson. Who else am I missing? I'm missing somebody. Anyway, but all of these people are all up for election next year. The state assembly, the state senate, they're all up for election. Are you going to elect these same people who refuse to act now? This is my question, because I continue to see this every year. What I see a lot is people voting for the party line. So if you're a Democrat, you vote Democrat, and that just clearly seems not to have been working, because the laws that are getting passed and the policies that are getting implemented are not improving the communities that they say that they're going to help. They say they're going to help the impoverished and the underserved and the Black communities, but my community is full of blight. I live in a Black, largely underserved neighborhood, you know. So my community, matter of fact, I take a step back and maybe take a little bit of a step forward and say a large portion, probably about 60% of the Southwest, is in blight and deterioration because of the crime and violence. And don't get me started on the businesses in the Southwest. And then if you look at other hard neighborhoods like the 14621 area in North Clinton, Portland, all over there, it's rough over there too. We get all of these negative adverse impacts from policies that are put in by our state officials, the policies that deal directly with crime, the policies that affect you, your mom, your sister, your brother, your cousin, your business, all of that. And then people do not hold them accountable. These are policies, and I hate to say it, right? Like, these are policies that have been pushed by the Democrats. And the question is, if these Democratic policies aren't working, why do you keep voting Democrat? This is a very serious conversation that needs to be had. Now you'll say, oh, well, Marcus, Republicans don't really run people in the city. That's also not true. Okay, Republicans do run people in the city, but we haven't had a Republican elected in office for 50 years. So when people are like, oh, Republicans are bad, well, look at everything that's going on in the community with the school board, with the housing crisis, with the food prices, with healthcare, with everything, right? The Democrats have been in control for 50 years here, and nothing has improved for the majority of the people that are traditionally from Rochester. And this is a conversation that we don't have, that's not being had, and we really seriously need to have. Because the question is, if the Democrats have run the city for 50 years, and we've seen neighborhoods and parts of the city deteriorate, then who would be responsible for that, right? It would be the people who are in charge. Well, who are the people in charge? Those people are the Democrats. And this is the mindset that we need to get into and understand, that we don't just have to vote Democrat. We can vote Republican. You know, like, this is something that a lot of people don't know. They don't know that they can vote outside of their party in the general election, which is every year in November. So in November, when you go vote, you don't have to vote for whoever is on your party line. If you're a Democrat, you don't have to vote Democrat. If you're a Republican, you don't have to vote Republican, and so on. But we get too many people that get stuck in this mindset. Oh, the Democrats are for Black people. Oh, the Democrats are for poor people. Oh, the Democrats are trying to help people. Well, all I see is people in my Democratic run city being negatively impacted by Democratic policies. And again, this doesn't mean that all Democrats are bad, or all elected officials that are Democrats are bad. This just is talking about specifically the policies that they have, that they want to and continue to implement. Can we talk about the school board for a second? You look at all this crime outside, all these shooting, all these violence. I was talking to somebody yesterday that does outreach in the community for people that have been victims of crime and stuff like that, you know? So I was talking to them, and they were like, yeah, man, all of these kids out here and stuff like that, they just don't feel like there's anything out for them, or they don't feel like they're going to be able to be productive, and they don't have any resources or anything. Well, that's because they don't have any education, and they can't see past the negativity in their neighborhoods. They can't see past anything that's right in front of them. This is a very, very serious problem. This is something that we see more and more of every year with the school district, right? The school district continues to get more and more monies. We're at almost $1 billion $1.5 billion for the school district right now. And what's the deal with that? Every year they raise the school district budget, and every year they have less schools, they have less students, and they have more money. Somebody explain that to me. And it doesn't make any sense. And another issue is this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Another issue is this right here. The homeless and mental health issue. Okay? But nobody wants to really talk about that. Nobody really wants to deal with the homeless and mental health issue. Nobody. Why? But I thought that the Democrats and their policies care about us in impoverished and disadvantaged communities and in Black and Latino communities. I thought they care. Well, why is the homeless problem getting worse? Why is the mental health crisis getting worse? It all goes back to policies. And this is what people have to remember. It is very largely about the people who get elected and what they do when they're in office. And you have to hold them to account when they're in office. You can't just go out and elect somebody and then they're in office and then you act like you don't know nobody once they get in there and they start doing stuff that you're not a fan of. When you see stuff wrong in your community, you got to address that with your elected officials. Who's addressing this homeless crisis, right? What's being done? What's being done about mental health crisis, right? Like nothing, really. Like they throw money at these things. The money never really seems to get to the right places. So where'd the money go? You know, this is what the discussions that we really need to have and the open conversation that we really need to have. Back to the schools. Where do you think all of these kids are coming from that are out here committing this crime? The schools, okay? They're filled by the school system. School's not interesting, not teaching them any skills that are useful in life. And it's a madhouse in the school. I don't know if you've gone to one of the Rochester City Public Schools lately, okay? But it's like a fucking zoo, excuse my language, okay? But it's for real. And then these kids, all of that angst and animosity and anger and just feeling like they can do whatever and get away with it because there's no suspensions, there's no detentions, there's no real type of authority in school, there's no structure provided by the school, there's no morals or values taught because, you know, there's no Lord in school, there's no Jesus, no Bible, no values, no core philosophies or nothing. You know, I laugh to keep from crying, right? Because it's really very serious and nobody really seems to care about our people in our community, in our city. But our elected officials on the state level, in the state assembly and the state senate, they've got all of these plans to focus on bringing people from outside of our city into our city, you know? And one of them said out their mouth, they said, you know, Rochester is too stuck on itself. It's not that important. We need to focus on the people from outside of Rochester and bringing them in. An elected official said that out of their mouth. It's printed in the newspaper. I got it at my house because when I read that, I was like, see, they finally said exactly what I've been saying they do out loud. This is a serious issue. It's a serious issue and we need to talk about it and make me want to spit, see? But we're not having that conversation. Now, this year we've got elections coming up in November for county ledge and stuff like that. And I know most people have already gone and voted in the primaries that do vote, which is a whole nother conversation we need to have. And now a lot of people aren't going to vote in the general election because there aren't a lot of people to vote for in the general election because most of the people were in the primary. Again, this is the one-party system. This is the one-party rule that is all ruled by Democrats in our city. No matter who the official is, it seems like they're all pushing the same policy. It's just a continuation of the same stuff that we see over and over again. This has to stop. We have to get out of this mindset that Democrats are good, Republicans are bad, because Democrats have run our city of Rochester for 50 years. There hasn't been not one Republican in office in Rochester. It's time to start voting different. It's time to start understanding what people's policies are. Okay, you really have to talk and listen to these elected officials or these people running for office about what they're saying they want to do and how they're going to implement it. Not just them saying, oh, we're going to give you free stuff. Oh, we're going to increase this for you. Oh, we're going to make it so you can't get out of the rut that you're in, but will be able to string you along just enough so you don't die. Because that's what we're getting right now. We're getting a lot of hot air, fluff, and bluster. We don't have any real comprehensive change. We don't see any real comprehensive differences. And for the quality of life for many people continues to deteriorate. You know, and I know some people that may be watching this that may be in nicer, more affluent neighborhoods, Highland, and other places are starting to see the crime start to drift into their neighborhoods, but largely they feel protected. Like, it's not going to happen here. It's not a problem, you know? And I see it when I talk to people in the, what do you call it, Swillsburg and stuff like that. They're like, oh, it's not that big a deal, because they feel like it doesn't impact them directly. But it impacts all of us directly. Ask Upper Monroe. Look at all the crime that's starting to go on over there. Okay? The crime travels. So we need to nip it in the bud now. We need to hold our elected officials accountable. Like I said, they're in office right now. Have you visited them? Have you given them a call? You know, it's not the mayor that's the problem. It's the state assembly. It's the state senators. Do you know who your state senators are? Do you know who your state assembly people are? If you don't, go to restororochester.com if you're tired of this nonsense and you want to actually hold elected officials accountable. There's a page where you can click and you can go and find out who your elected officials are for your area. But this is out of control. You know, we got Demond Meeks, state assembly for my area. We've got Sarah Clark, state assembly. We've got Harry Bronson, state assembly. We got Jeremy Cooney, state senate. We got Samara Brooke, state senate. These are the elected officials that need to be held accountable. The reason why this is going on is bail reform and raise the age. The reason why we've got problems in the schools are because of the people on the school board, right? They don't focus on the education. I know we have an issue with unions too, but that's besides the point. But we have to start addressing these issues with the people that are in charge of these different things, right? And then as far as the school board goes, they don't have the final say. Again, it goes back to the state assembly, right? And the state senate, who are in charge of the state's school board, who push all types of craziness on the children and the educational system and requirements that don't even make sense, where they would never be able to get a job in real life off of the skills that they're allegedly teaching them. And this is a problem, because people get disheartened when they go to these schools and they see that this education is not applicable to the real world. Makes me want to spit, y'all. I'm trying to tell you. So this is something that we really need to focus on as the crime continues to grow more and more out of control. They'll tell you that the murders are down. That's nice, the murders are down. But people being shot at is way up. You know, this is something that we don't have conversations about. The stabbings, the number of stabbings, like, it's beyond me. Like, and they don't even put most of the stabbings on the TV. Many people don't even report the stabbings or the slashings. Slashings, that's another thing. Nobody talks about the slashings. That's another thing. Home invasions, robberies, all of this stuff. Hey, good morning. Home invasions, robberies, all this stuff. Nobody talks about that stuff. And we need to have these serious conversations in amongst ourselves as a community, because it's going to be up to us to come together and us to hold the elected officials accountable, because very clearly they're not capable of holding themselves accountable. And they're the only ones that are able to hold anybody accountable. But, you know, it's not so good, because very clearly they can't set the priorities of the people before the priorities of their benefactors and what they want to do themselves. Their priorities are not our priorities, and we have to reshape our government and put it back together the way that we want it, not the way that they want to see it. So that's what I got for you. You got to get active. I want you to go to restororochester.com if you guys are tired of this, because we've got to start unifying together and we've got to take action. That's restororochester.com. And we're going to actually work and push to change the laws that are going on in our city, in our community, because our community is suffering and we deserve better. And remember, it's not about party, it's about policy. And very clearly, the Democratic policies that have been implemented are not working. It's time to reconsider. Maybe next time you vote Republican. I'll catch you guys later.
Be blessed, be well, and remember, stand up, speak up, and don't shut up.